Yo, welcome everybody out there on Instagram. It's great to be with you. And this topic, boy, we struck a nerve. We've had 11,278 views of around our content around this 50-year mortgage. And everybody is freaking out, right? The narrative that I am seeing online is very well represented with this Reddit thread. Trump's new proposal, 50-year mortgage. How about building more homes and creating a society where people can pay off their debt in 15 years? Well, first of all, I could not agree more. But what that would take to accomplish that is you would have to end the Federal Reserve. We would have to get off the fiat money system that is constantly being debased by quantitative easing, and that would cause a massive depression, and then the world would be a lot better place. So I do agree with you. That is the government and society we should be building. I just don't think it's very likely. So as someone who's trying to be practical around these options, I'm trying to figure out how do we use this 50-year mortgage strategy to build wealth on behalf of our clients. So I've spent the last 4 days doing a lot of math. And I'm like, I'm like an A- student in math if I'm lucky. So the good thing for me, I have ChatGPT to help me out. And we have done a deep dive into the math behind the 50-year mortgage. So what's the mainstream narrative? 50-year mortgages will destroy American wealth. You'll pay double in interest. This traps families in debt forever. And I don't disagree with some of this stuff. You will pay double in interest. Trap families in debt forever. 50-year mortgage will destroy American wealth. That's the part that I want to counter with some math. Here's what's not understood by most people. And that is that inflation destroys debt. Over time, three things happen due to inflation. Home values rise, rents go up, household income goes up. One thing stays frozen, and that's your mortgage payment. Well, at least the principal and interest part of your mortgage payment, your taxes and insurance do go up. But inflation over long periods of time destroys debt, and that's what I'm going to teach you in this live today. So we did a case study. We did a lot of math. We stressed ChatGPT out. I literally crashed ChatGPT multiple times. I gave ChatGPT a freaking headache. Here's the scenario that we gave ChatGPT. We want to do a median home price, $415,000 home with 10% down, loan amount $373,000. In our case study, we want to compare a 30-year fixed mortgage at 6.3 to a hypothetical 50-year mortgage at 6.55. We're going to use, and we're going to have fixed principal and interest payments for the entire term of the loan, but we are going to show taxes and insurance growing at 4% per year. We're going to assume the property appreciates at 4% per year, which is just about the CPI average over the last 50 years. So that's very reasonable. If you're in Utah, where I'm at, this number is way bigger than 4%. And we're going to show what would happen at a future time if this buyer decided to rent out this property. So in the first case study we're going to show, we're going to assume that the buyer lived in the home for 10 years, and then starting in year 11 through the end of the 50 years, they rented out that property as an investment property. But we're going to start our base case with a rental income of $2,245. That is, according to Zillow, the median single family rental income in the US. So we're using median home price, median rental income. And in Utah, household income median is just shy of 100,000. So I rounded up and to show income growth, starting at 100,000, increasing at 4% a year. So those are my inputs. Those are my base assumptions. And here's the numbers. All right. So on the top section, and I will dive into these and narrate through this because I know the numbers may be small, especially if you're looking at this on a phone. If we did a 30-year analysis, and we looked at this in different time periods. What does it look like the first year, the 5th year, the 10th year, the 20th year, the 30th year, the 40th year, the 50th year? And then we did the exact same thing for the 50-year fixed mortgage. Then we showed the property appreciating at 4% a year. So by the end of year one, your $415,000 home with 4% appreciation has appreciated to $431,000. At the end of 5 years, it's worth $505,000. At the end of 10 years, it's at $614,000. You get the point. The mortgage balance, of course, is going to go down. They put a 10% down payment, and at the end of year one, as they've started to pay down their mortgage, the mortgage balance is down to $369. At the end of 5 years, it's down to $348. At the end of 10 years, it's down to $315. At the end of 20 years, it's down to $205. And here's the equity, which is the difference between the property value and the mortgage balance, is your equity. That's the amount of equity that's built up in that home over these different time horizons. Now we showed the cumulative amount of interest paid. And this is what everybody's freaking out on. On a 30-year loan, you would have paid $459,000 worth of interest. On a 50-year loan, you would have paid double that, $898,000 in interest over 50 years. Granted, if you can do a 30-year loan, you should do a 30-year loan, not a 50-year loan. But don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. If the difference in payment, which is only a couple $100, your 30-year payment starts out at $2,836, your 50-year payment starts out at $2,643. But if a couple $100 makes the difference of you qualifying for a home in a quality school district, if a couple $100 in savings makes the difference of you qualifying for a home where you feel safe with your kids playing outside and your wife walking the neighborhoods, then perhaps the 50-year mortgage has a place. If the couple $100 a month savings makes a big enough difference that you can buy a home in 2025 instead of 2027, then perhaps a 50-year mortgage has a place. So that's what we're trying to show, is what is the upside of a 50-year mortgage if that enables you to get into a home sooner, or if it enables you to get into the home where your family is safer or is going to get a better education. All right, stick with me. I know this is a lot of numbers. I promise you there's a punchline. So we charted the principal, interest, and tax payment over 30 years, and then you'll see a big drop in the payment by year 40. That's because the principal and interest is gone. You've paid off the mortgage after this 30th year. This is actually your taxes and insurance. 40 years of inflation on the price of the home. Your home's now worth $1.9 million. So your monthly taxes and insurance are $2,500. But don't worry, your income has gone up too. So don't get stressed out. And here's what the tax principal and interest would be after 50 years. We did the exact, under 50 years under the 30-year scenario. We did the exact same thing for the 50-year mortgage. You can see the payment steps up over time as your taxes and insurance go up, because taxes and insurance are based on your property value that goes up. Then we showed the rental scenario, okay? So check this out. This is what your rental income would be year one. Here's what it would be year 5. Here's what it would be year 10. Let's assume you lived in this home for the first 10 years. So your cumulative cash flow was 0. You didn't have any cash flow for the first 10 years. But then in year 11, you decided to rent this property out and you moved on to another primary residence. This was part of your retirement strategy to inflation-proof your retirement by creating passive income through real estate. So in year 10, right as you're about to move out of this property, you have a monthly rental income of $3,195 a month on the 30-year scenario and $3,087 payments. So you got $100 cash flow. On the 50-year scenario, your payment's $2,894 and your rental income is the same, $3,195. So now you have $300 in cash flow, which is kind of cool. You got a little more cash flow. You have a little more money to go towards expenses. You have a little bit more money to fund childcare. You've got a little bit more cushion to rent that property out and move on. And then we started to calculate the cumulative cash flow over the preceding decades. So by year 20, you have $85,000 in cash flow on the 20-year, on the 30 years loan, you'd have $85,000 in cash flow on year 20. On the 50-year mortgage, you have $108,000 in cash flow. So you have another $23,000 in cash flow because your payment's lower. And you can see by year 30 on the 50-year scenario, you've got $391,000 in cash flow. That's after your taxes, insurance, and mortgage payments been paid. That's passive income cash flow. Versus on the 30-year, you only have $344,000 in cash flow. So more cash flow in this 50-year option. At the end of the day, and then the last line, let me explain this, your net worth. So to start out, you have $62,000 in net worth after year one because you put a 10% down payment, you paid some principal down on your loan, and you saw 4% appreciation. Year 5, you have $156,000 in net worth. Year 10, you have $299,000 in net worth. Now, granted, on the 50-year mortgage, you only have $254,000 in equity. So you have about $45,000 less in equity because on the 50-year loan, more went to interest and less went to principal. But the point is, guys, if you couldn't have bought the house that worked for your family on the 30-year fixed, and so you decided to rent instead of taking out a 50-year mortgage, you would have just lost $254,000 in equity that the 50-year enabled you to take advantage of. Now we start layering in our rental income. So you've got your passive income for the second decade, year 11 through 20, $108,000, plus your home value went from $600,000 to $900,000, plus your mortgage balance went from $359 to $332. So by year 20, you have $685,000 increase to your net worth. That's the cash flow plus the real estate appreciation and paying down your mortgage. By year 30, $1.4 million. By year 40, $2.7 million. By year 50, you have $1.85 million in positive cash flow, and your home's worth $2.95 million. So you have a positive impact to your net worth of $4.8 million. So let me ask you this. If it makes the difference between you renting or owning, buying a home in the neighborhood where your family is safe and well educated or not, would having a net worth increase of $4.8 million justify an additional $450,000 in interest? I'd say yes, absolutely. So if I had my choice, I would take the 30. If I didn't have my choice, if my choice was take the 50-year or rent, I'd take the 50-year because over long periods of time, guys, rents go up. Look at these rents appreciating at 4% a year over a 50-year horizon. In 50 years, this home rents out for $1,500 a month. You only have taxes and insurance, only have taxes and insurance of $5,800. You're almost $10,000 a month positive cash flow. Long periods of time, price of the home goes up, rental income goes up, your mortgage payment stays the same. Now, let me give you one more case study or scenario, and then we're going to end this live. What if you didn't rent this property out after 10 years? What if you stayed in the home? Well, median household, not individual, but median household income in Utah is a little under $100,000 a year. I just rounded up thinking that home buyers probably have a little more income than renters. So we rounded up to $100,000 a year. We're going to assume that this person is an industrious person. They're working hard in their career and they're going to have 4% income increases, which is in line with CPI growth, inflation growth. So that means that as years go by, your income goes up. By year 5, you're at $9,700 a month. By year 10, you're making almost $12,000 a month. By year 30, you're making almost $26,000 a month. And here's the point I want to make. And I'll just jump down to the 50-year scenario here. Same income growth over that period of time. When you buy the home initially, 32% of your income is going to make this mortgage payment. So 2,643 mortgage payment is 32% of your income. But over the decades, as your income goes up and your mortgage stays the same, the percentage of your income that is going to pay the mortgage goes down. So wouldn't it be likely, if you had to use a 50-year to get into the right neighborhood and to move from renting to buying, wouldn't it be likely in the next 50 years, as your income is going up, you might have an opportunity to refinance? Maybe rates go down and you get to move from the 6.55 rate to a 5.55 rate. Wouldn't it be likely, when your income has gone from $8,000 a month to $11,000 a month or $17,000 a month, that you decide to refinance off of the 50-year track into a 15-year pay down, because you've got so much more income? If your payment goes up a little bit because you go to a 15-year, who cares? Guys, team, this is inflation destroying debt. Your rental income goes up over time, your income at your household goes up over time, and your mortgage payment, at least the principal and interest portion, stays the same. So that's the primary lesson that I want to teach here. It's not that I'm trying to sell a 50-year over a 30-year. It's a tool, and those that make the best decisions have the most amount of information. I hope you learned something. I hope you have more information now than you did 10 minutes ago. And please leave me comments, blow this up, challenge my assumptions. What else do we want to talk about on this thread? Peace out, everybody. Have a great weekend ahead.